You've got to be kidding me! Those were the only words that slipped out of my mouth when my eyes locked onto the nightmare unfolding just a few feet away from me. My daughter Emily, my sweet little girl who had been born with a walking disability and depended on her crutches to move around, stood nervously near the edge of the train platform. She had always been careful in crowded places, always cautious because she knew her balance wasn't as strong as the other kids. That day she was waiting patiently, just like everyone else, when out of nowhere the one person I had prayed would stay far from us appeared. Karen, the self-proclaimed queen of the HOA, the neighbor who had made our lives miserable since the very first day we moved into the neighborhood. Karen had always been cruel, her words sharp and her actions petty, but what she did in that split second went far beyond petty. She came up behind Emily with a look I will never forget, a twisted smirk on her face, and without a moment's hesitation she shoved her forward toward the tracks. I swear the world around me stopped. The roar of the approaching train filled my ears, people screamed, and all I could see was my daughter's small frame stumbling forward, her crutches slipping, her arms flailing as the platform edge rushed up beneath her. My heart felt like it had been ripped from my chest. Somehow, by sheer instinct or maybe by divine grace, my body moved faster than my mind. I lunged forward with every ounce of strength I had, my hands just barely managing to grab Emily's arm before she tipped over the edge. I yanked her back with a force I didn't even know I possessed, and we both tumbled to the ground together. She clung to me, shaking and crying, her tears soaking my shirt, her voice trembling as she whispered, "Mommy." She pushed me. I held her so tightly it was as if I could shield her from the entire world. People around us gasped in horror. Some pulled out their phones, recording what had just happened. Others shouted at Karen, demanding to know what she had done. But Karen, she just stood there, calm as ever, with that same cold smirk curling across her lips, as if she hadn't just tried to throw a disabled child in front of a moving train. And then, unbelievably, she turned and started to walk away, her heels clicking on the platform, her shoulders raised in arrogance, like she was the victim and not the monster. I was shaking too hard to speak, but the fury inside me was already boiling. That wasn't an accident. That wasn't a stumble. That was attempted murder, and everyone who had seen it knew it. In that instant, my entire world shifted. Protecting Emily wasn't just about love anymore. It was about justice, and for the first time in years, I knew Karen was going to people outside the neighborhood. Karen might have looked like a respectable woman, the type who wore neat blazers, carried clipboards, and always acted like she cared about order and rule. But those of us who lived under her constant glare knew the truth. She was a bully dressed up as an authority figure, the kind of person who thrived on making other people miserable just to feel powerful. She would storm through the neighborhood pointing out the tiniest things that no one else cared about, a flower planted in the wrong color bed, a trash can left out for 10 extra minutes, kids laughing too loudly on a summer evening, and every time she caught something, she would slap residents with petty HOA fines, write threatening letters, or show up at people's doors with that smug look on her face that said she believed she owned us all. But with us, with my family, her cruelty ran even deep. My husband David was a soldier, serving overseas, and instead of respecting the sacrifice he was making, Karen mocked him, sneering that he had abandoned his family to go play war, telling neighbors behind our backs that Emily would grow up broken because her father wasn't around. As if that wasn't cruel enough, she had no shame in targeting my daughter directly. She would roll her eyes when Emily tried to join other kids in neighborhood games, whispering loud enough for me to hear that Emily was too fragile and a burden. She even once had the nerve to tell me that children like Emily slowed down the community. Every time she opened her mouth it was poison, but I gritted my teeth and told myself not to engage, not to sink to her level, because deep down I believed that people like Karen eventually exposed themselves. But the day she shoved Emily toward the train proved that her heart wasn't just bitter, it was dangerous, and now she had shown the entire world just how far her hatred could go. I called the police that same day, my hands still trembling as I explained what happened. Witnesses were ready to give statements, people had recordings on their phones, and for once I felt like Karen's reign of terror was going to end. But when the officers questioned her, she transformed into an actress. She let tears stream down her face as she clutched her pearls and claimed that Emily had lost her balance and that she had only reached out to steady her. I could hardly breathe listening to the lies pour out of her mouth, but the worst part was watching the officers nod as if her story made sense. Despite the outrage of the crowd, despite the evidence, no arrest was made, no charges were filed. The case was left hanging, and once again Karen walked away with that same arrogant smirk, knowing the system had failed us. That night as I sat by Emily's bed watching her sleep, the fire in my chest burned hotter than ever. I knew this battle wasn't over. What Karen didn't know, what she could never predict, was that Emily's father, a man who had faced enemies far more dangerous than her, was coming home, and when he learned what she had done, the storm that was going to fall on Karen's head would be something she would never escape.